Thanks for tuning in, guys, to the Pest and Lawn Ginja. Today we're going to talk about crabgrass control. Alright ninjas, let's get to some learning bombs, shall we? Now I always like to start out by educating guys a little bit, especially when it comes to crabgrass control, because it's important to understand your plants and weeds are both classified as annuals, biennials, and perennials. Now why is that so important? Well, because the herbicides that we want to use, selective herbicides, and we'll get into that in a bit, are targeting your annuals and biennials and not the perennials. If you guys buy the wrong weed killing product, you will kill the entire lawn, or a non-selective herbicide, including the grass that you want. We don't want to do that. Now, if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, I treated this lawn. It was riddled with spurge and crabgrass just about everywhere, and a little bit of foxtail. Now you'll see a couple of these discolored areas. Let's go check it out. I want to show you how well the solutions worked. So at first glance, you guess this is all watering issues, but the solutions worked brilliantly. This is all crabgrass that I hit, and you'll see it's dead. Now I wanted to make it simple for you viewers at home, so I've developed a 5-step process to ensure that you kill crabgrass and not your lawn. Step number 1 might surprise you, but it's identifying the type of grass that you have. Step number 1 is the most important part of the process. You need to know what kind of grass that you have. Do not skip this step. The reason why we're establishing this is because it will determine the type of spray that you use. And if you use the wrong spray, you run the risk of killing your lawn. Now, commonly, your grass types are going to be divided between cool season grasses like your Kentucky blue, your ryegrass, and your turf type tall fescue. And your warm season grasses, the common ones, are Bermuda, St. Augustine, and Zoysia. But it's important that you understand the exact type of grass that you have so you buy the right solution. Not all warm season grasses require the same solution, and then you put yourself at risk. For some of you guys out there that are just starting on your lawn ninja journey, this might seem like a daunting task, but believe me when I say this, a lot of people out there want to help you. Take some pictures, grab some samples, take it to a local nursery, identify the grass, make your life simple. Do not skip step number 1. Step number 2, identify the weed. Crabgrass has kind of turned into one of those terms where it means it's a less desirable weed or grass type in my lawn, when in all actuality, it's its own plant. Identification is key. Oh, what do we have here? A nice bunching grass. This must be crabgrass. Well, it's not. It's Johnson grass. You can tell by the way that it grows tall and kind of flaps itself over. It's really thin and blows with the wind. Now, at first glance, this also looks like crabgrass, but you can tell it's orchard grass. The seed head is a dead giveaway, but also the way that the leaves grow off the stalk and through the stem. Now this beautiful bunching grass right here goes commonly misdiagnosed and is actually called bunching tall fescue. Now it is a thick, wide blade grass, and you can clearly see the veins that run through the leaves, and that's how you diagnose it. After you mow it, it sits in a fine bunch and has a flat top head to it. Not very inviting on the feet. Alright Ginja, how about this one? It's thick, I don't like it. Well, this one's actually called quackgrass. Still not it. You can see it almost looks like a helicopter as it comes off the stem, and it's got broad leaves to it, but we're getting close. How about this one, Ginja? Well, this is foxtail. The good news is this is controllable through the methods that we'll go through in this video. Alright, I've tortured you guys long enough. This here is crabgrass. Now, there's a couple of tell signs to it. It's got that spade bit tip on it, and it grows from a central vine. You'll notice it's a little bit discolored from the rest of the grass. It's a lighter green, and it grows parallel to the ground. Now, according to the labels, it's easiest to control crabgrass before it reaches the 3 to 4 tiller stage. Now, don't let that frustrate you because it's still controllable. After it gets larger, you may just have to do an additional treatment within 2 weeks. Now, if you're still a little confused on how to properly identify crabgrass, the seed head of crabgrass is a dead giveaway. It commonly has 4 seed heads in a bunch. Now, they'll come out looking pretty thick, but once they spread open, you'll see they're fairly thin and they're very unique. Now that you've completed steps number 1 and number 2, we can move on to choosing the correct solution for the type of grass that you have. Now, Ginja's first choice is an active ingredient called Quinclorac. Now, I like this active ingredient because it's got a broad label on it. You can treat grasses like Bermuda and Zoysia, but also your cool season grass like Kentucky Bluegrass, Fescue, and Ryegrass. Now, it's important to read these labels because you cannot treat Centipede or St. Augustine grass with this. You run the risk of killing it. Quinclorac 1.5L and Drive XLR8 work best with an adjuvant called a methylated seed oil. Now, these adjuvants are designed to help the product stick to the leaves of the grass. Now, it's also important to remember that you need to let the grass dry for 24 hours, no watering, in order for it to work properly. Now, if you've got really thick, dense amounts of crabgrass and it's really set in, you may have to do 2 applications. My recommendation per the product label is to spread them out within 14 days of each other. Now, a lot of you guys out there have more than just crabgrass going on. Some of you have spurge and oxalis, heavy clover problems. The nice thing about Quinclorac is it plays nicely with other herbicides. Now, the herbicide that I recommend that you guys use out there with Quinclorac is called T-Zone. It's got a broad range label with 100 different types of weeds that it'll knock down dead. Next on our list is an active ingredient called Mesotrione. Now, this is recommended for Buffalograss, Centipedegrass, Fine Fescue, Kentucky Bluegrass, and Perennial Ryegrass. Now, initially, Tenacity was the only way you could get Mesotrione. However, they do sell a generic version called Meso 4SC, and it'll save you a few bucks. Now, the reason why it's a Ginja favorite is because it acts as both a pre-emergent and a post-emergent, which means that you're going to kill some broadleaf weeds and whatever's on the label, plus it will stop weed seed germination. Now, it does require a surfactant, so I use the high yield spreader sticker non-ionic surfactant per the label. Your dish soap is not going to do the same thing, and it needs to stay dry for about 12 to 24 hours. Tenacity is one of Ginja's favorites because you can always tell that it's working. It's basically like putting sunblock on the targeted weeds. It can't process the sun and it turns the leaves white. And as you can see here, the grass is fine and the crabgrass is dying. Now, it's important to remember that it does take 10 to 14 days before you're noticeably going to see this bleaching effect, and I recommend no mowing for at least 3 to 7 days after the application. If you have a ton of weeds out there and you need an extra kick, Speedzone plays really well with Tenacity, and I highly recommend it. I know a lot of you out there saying, Ginja, that's fine and dandy, but I got St. Augustine grass, I got crabgrass, and I got Dallisgrass. What do I do? Brings us to our next product called Celcius. It's actually rated for residential use, which is nice. Before that, we had a product called MSMA, but it was not rated for anything other than golf courses. Now, this little bottle packs a punch, and its recommended uses for Bermuda, Centipedegrass, St. Augustine, and Zoysia. I get a ton of you guys asking me out there what to use for Dallisgrass, Creeping Charlie, and Oxalis, and this may be your answer. On to step number 4, how to properly handle and mix herbicides. There's a lot of options out there when it comes to backpack sprayers and handheld sprayers. Now, we want to keep this process simple. So if you don't already have one, I want you to grab just a cheap handheld sprayer. And the focus we want is I want you to pick one up that either has a fan sprayer or a cone sprayer, which most of them do by default. Now that we've chosen the right product for the type of grass we have, we need to move on to the proper mixing and handling procedures. That all starts by reading and familiarizing yourself with the label. Hey Ginja, did you read the label? What's wrong here? This Ginja's not even wearing the right clothes. Upon reading the label, he needs to be wearing pants, long sleeve shirt, shoes with socks, and gloves. Spot spraying, or spraying each weed individually, is going to be the easiest way to not only mix but also treat the weeds. So most spot spraying methods, we're going to be mixing either 1 gallon of solution or 2 gallons of solution, and the first thing we want to do is mix half the water. Each product is different and you need to familiarize yourself with the label. So for Tenacity, we need 2 gallons of water, 1 teaspoon of Tenacity, and 3 teaspoons of a non-ionic surfactant. Now when it comes to Quinclorac, we're going to focus on 1.45 fluid ounces per gallon, and Speedzone is anywhere between 1.1 and 1.8 fluid ounces per gallon. Now these rates are listed for 1,000 square feet. That's a 20 by 50 foot area of just weeds. So when we spot spray, these solutions are gonna go a long way. Going to the store and buying a gallon of pre-mixed solutions is always an option, but it's an expensive one at almost $15 per gallon per 1,000 square feet. Now the solutions that I use come in below $2 per 1,000 square feet, leaving me plenty of room to add an herbicide for an additional $2 per 1,000 square feet, and I still come in 4 times less the cost than what you would buy at the big box store. Now that I've got everything with me, I'm going to lay down a shop towel or some cardboard. Prevention is always key, and that way if I have a spill, I can clean it up quickly. Mixing these solutions is fairly simple. You want to start by putting half the recommended dose of water into your tank, which means for Tenacity, we're going to put 1 gallon of water in, and for all other mixtures, we're going to do half a gallon of water. For ease of use, most sprayers have indicators on the side of the bottle that will show you how much water is already in the tank. When mixing herbicides, it's important that we're precise with the amount of herbicides that go in the tank. If we put too much herbicide in and we spray correctly, we run the risk of burning both the weed and the grass. Too little and you're not going to kill the weed. Now I always shake the bottle for a couple of seconds to make sure the product hasn't settled. Tenacity and Meso 4SC call for 1 teaspoon per 1,000 square feet and 3 teaspoons of a non-ionic surfactant. Commonly, these products are in ounces and not teaspoons. So luckily for us, Tenacity and Meso 4SC have their own measuring device. Now, as you can see here, all you have to do is follow the top number, which is the amount of teaspoons, with the bottom number of the amount of gallons. You can use the same measuring device with the non-ionic surfactant. Now, a lot of products come with measuring devices and a lot don't, so it's important to have a measuring device handy that's in ounces and goes up to 1 cup. Now, I love the convenience to be able to add an additional herbicide to the tank so I can take care of my annual grasses and my hard-to-do weeds in the same pass. If you dig deep enough into the labels will commonly tell you which active ingredients play nicely with each other. Now, I've found that Tenacity and Celcius play really well with Speedzone, where your Quinclorac and Drive products play much better with T-Zone. If spraying herbicides is new to you, I highly recommend getting a spray indicator like Turf Mark. Now, this makes it easy because you can actually see the pattern as it goes on. Now, the application's fairly simple. You want to use 1 ounce of solution per gallon of liquid that you have in the tank. Spray indicators can and will stain temporarily. That's how they work. So you want to make sure you keep it off your clothes and off the concrete. Now that we've got all the products mixed into the tank, you can see they're all separated. So now is the perfect time where we need to add the additional 50% water that we did not mix in originally. And this is going to help mix everything together. After we add the water in, we're going to close the lid and shake the bottle for about 20 to 30 seconds. Step number 5, how to properly apply the herbicide. Having a really nice sprayer is convenient, but the most important part of the spray application when we're spot spraying is the nozzle. Now, the difference between the fan sprayer and the cone sprayer on the right is the fan sprayer is going to spray a larger area, where the cone sprayer, you can really dial it in. Now, if you're new to spraying herbicides, I recommend the fan sprayer over the cone sprayer. Now, let's take a couple of practice passes. The first thing we're going to do is pump the sprayer full of air. Now, we want to have adequate air to push the water out evenly. Now, no more spray and pray, guys. We want to take the guesswork out. So ideally, we want to spray 1 serving of solution per 1,000 square feet. Now, with spot spraying, I find that if you keep the nozzle about 12 to 14 inches from the ground, that works best. Now, if you spray too little, you're going to have a lot of gaps or air gaps between the droplets. Now, if you spray too much, it's really going to go on heavy and saturated. You're going to burn the grass and the weed. Now, if you spray just right, you'll see no gaps and no heavy saturation between the droplets. It all just kind of comes together. Now, before you spray the lawn, let's get on the concrete. Let's do some practice passes. Now, the one thing I want you to pay attention to is how fast you're walking, how fast the wand is going left to right. Now, these little details are going to be the difference between you slaying those weeds and praying that it works. The name of the game is to get an even distribution through the spray. Not too light, not too wet, but just an even spread. Now, once you got your confidence up, it's time to get on the lawn and slay those weeds. Now, the one nice thing about the dye is it will give you a visual if you're getting through the lawn correctly, because you can physically see the results. As a safety reminder, it's important to keep people and pets off of the solutions until they've dried. Remember, it's just grass. The most important part, get out there, have some fun, do the doing, and if you screw up, hey, you can always fix it, no big deal. This concludes my 5-step approach to killing crabgrass. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please hit me up in the comments. Love to help you guys out. Just remember, sharing is caring. This is Pest and Lawn Ginja. I'm out of here. Bye.